Burkina Faso is remembering its former president, Thomas Sankara, who was killed in a coup in 1987. Hundreds of people gathered to mark the 30th anniversary of his death, calling for those responsible to be brought to justice.
Hundreds of demonstrators march in the streets of the Burkina Faso capital Ouagadougou to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the assassination of former President Thomas Sankara, a charismatic Marxist revolutionary who gained a reputation as Africa's Che Guevara. Carrying placards and pictures of Sankara, demonstrators say they want justice for the leader who was assassinated during a 1987 uprising led by his friend Blaise Compaoré, who went on to become president but was ousted in 2015 after a popular uprising.
We came here to call for justice for Thomas Sankara. We want to know who ordered his death and who shot Thomas Sankara. We will not rest until we find out who is responsible for his death.
Sankara seized power in the 1983 coup at the age of 33 to tackle corruption and the dominance of former colonial powers. In 4 years as president, the former fighter pilot became the first African leader to denounce the menace of AIDS, took a stand against the IMF and World Bank, and promoted women's rights by opposing female circumcision and polygamy. For Sankara's family, October the 15th brings painful memories of unanswered questions, as they are hopeful that one day his murderers will face the law.
We are here and we are waiting. His children are now adults and have been asking questions, and we are waiting for answers. This wait is really painful for us. It's a big burden, a burden that we have been carrying for a very long time. But we have also found relief because the public has always supported us.
At least a dozen people, including senior military officials, as well as soldiers from the Presidential Security Unit, have been charged in connection with the murder. Critics say Sankara's reforms curtailed freedoms and left ordinary people a little better off.
Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi has warned corrupt ministers and officials that they will be fired and prosecuted if found culpable of corrupt practices. Addressing senior servants in the capital Maputo, Filipe said the needs of Mozambicans should be saved, quote, as they can kneel to request things like the grace of God, but not to request what is theirs, end of quote. He added that the courts ought to do their job and convict health workers who sell stolen medicines and convict education officials who sell exam papers or enroll students in exchange for favors. President Filipe Nyusi has been in office since 2015. And the Executive Chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACO, Mr. Debo Adeniro, joins us in the studio. Welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Just to quickly get your thoughts first, with lawmakers, in South Africa today beginning inquiries into corruption charges against the president and his allies, what does it say of the country's democracy?
Well, it's not just the country's democracy. It's all Africa's democracy, because it's a pointer to the ideal that checks and balances prescribed to any democracy. And that is why in most cases you have 3 tiers of government, in some cases 2 tiers of government. The reason why they're there is that they have different rules. Then you have 2 or 3 arms of government. These 3 arms of government have different roles to play in checking one another. For example, if the executive is to execute developmental projects, then you have a legislature that is going to play oversight functions on what they do. And that is what is happening in South Africa. And that is a leading light in Africa, and that is what you expect a country like Nigeria, that is supposed to be big brother Africa, to be doing. And if we are not setting example, then others will be setting it for us. Nigerian pride itself as giant of Africa, but it's becoming an ant in Africa. So the initiative is correct, is in the right direction, and it is ideal. And that will allow the principles of separation of powers to work. If the executive can, thinks that they can do and undo, and if the legislature is not checking them, and the judiciary will have nothing to do, because if the executive arms and the legislative arm conspire against the people, they will sabotage whatever provisions you have in the books or in the statute books, including the Constitution. But now that the legislature in South Africa has taken the bull, by the horns.
So essentially, separation of powers at play. But then the Nigerian twist is the immunity clause.
Yeah, that is one aspect of it, but the immunity clause is not the only reason why Nigerian government has not been so accountable. It is not the immunity clause that doesn't make them to be open, for example, and to be transparent and to run participatory governance. Now, immunity clause only bar a few people. That is the governors, the secondary, I mean, the deputy, the president and the vice president. It doesn't have anything to do with the Senate president, for example. Doesn't have anything to do with the ministers. And the ministers are the errand ones that actually carry out the field work. The legislature are the ones that are supposed to play oversight functions and to check the executive. The judiciary, they're supposed to interpret laws, to implement the provisions of the law when it comes to giving punishment and to finding people guilty and ensuring that the guilty does not go scot-free, are the ones that are not doing their work. They are not protected by any immunity clause. For those who are enjoying immunity clause, if the legislature, for example, is up about and doing what they should do is to remove the immunity clause, and if there is prima facie, allegation against anybody that is enjoying immunity clause, they can remove that allegation or impeach the fellow to face the law. Then, besides that, even if we are not going to do that, maybe because we don't want to disrupt the process of governance, we should allow the anti-corruption agencies to wait at the gate of the executive office. As soon as the tenure expires, they just promptly take him.
We're going to go on a little break, and hopefully we'll come back and continue this discussion. Still to come on the program, Democratic Republic of Congo and 15 other countries elected to the United Nations Human Rights Council. Do stay with us.